The Legend of Jigong Chapter 54.
So our mission today is to figure out exactly how this narrative manages to juggle wild slapstick comedy, gritty underworld true crime violence, and incredibly dense philosophical debates. Because honestly, it really shouldn't work.
It's a massive tonal balancing act.
It really is. I mean, you shouldn't be able to have a scene that feels like Charlie Chaplin slipping on a banana peel right next to a scene where a guy gets brutally stabbed in the back and stuffed into a cave.
Yeah, but here it is.
Right, and it's all centered entirely around this super eccentric legendary figure, the mad monk himself, Jigong. We have a guy named Hua Yunlong who just bailed out the window.
Right, the guy who ran.
Yeah, but his sworn brother, this really imposing warrior named Lai Ming, does not run. He decides to hold the high ground on the stairs.
Because Lai Ming is entirely focused on the physical reality of his situation. In his mind, he holds like all the tactical advantages.
He's got the high ground.
Exactly. He has a sharp piece of steel, he has the elevation of the staircase, and he has the element of surprise. Within the rules of his world, which is the martial underworld, he represents a very specific pinnacle of secular, violent power.
He's the apex predator in that specific room.
Right. He is operating purely on the logic of physical force. If he swings the sword fast enough and hard enough, his problem just disappears.
And then Jigong arrives. And we touched on his appearance, but the text goes out of its way to describe just how gross he looks.
Oh, it really emphasizes the grime.
It does. It specifically notes his monk's robe is essentially falling off his body. He has about 2 inches of scruffy, unkempt hair, and his face is literally covered in oily dirt.
But, okay, here is where I have to push back on this character design.
Go for it.
If Jigong is this immensely powerful, enlightened master, which, the text establishes he is, why does he let himself look like a vagrant?
It does seem counterintuitive.
Right. It seems incredibly inefficient. If you were an agent of divine justice, wouldn't you want people to instantly respect your authority? Like, why not clean up a little bit to command the room?
Well, that aesthetic choice is actually his primary weapon, and it really cuts to the core of classical Chinese societal structures.
What we are seeing is a very specific iteration of the holy fool archetype. We see this across global literature, right?
Wow.
Think of Diogenes in ancient Greece living in a barrel to mock Athenian high society.
Oh yeah, the philosopher in the dirt.
Exactly, or the Urdivy in the Russian Orthodox tradition. But here, in the context of imperial China and the martial arts world, it is a surgical strike against the concept of face.
Face, meaning mianzi, like the social currency of reputation and prestige.
Precisely. In the culture Lai Ming occupies, face is quite literally a matter of life and death. The martial arts world is obsessed with status, titles, lineage, and, outward appearance.
You have to look tough to be tough.
Right. An honorable warrior must look and act like an honorable warrior to maintain his social standing. Lai Ming cares deeply about how he is perceived. He postures, he preens.
Oh, he's all about the brand.
Completely. Jigong, on the other hand, fundamentally rejects that entire system. He understands that the physical form is just a temporary illusion. So by looking completely unimpressive or even repulsive, he isn't just ignoring the concept of status. He is actively mocking the very concept of being impressive.
Oh, wow. So he's basically forcing his enemies to underestimate him.
Exactly.
It reminds me of how certain modern tech billionaires will deliberately wear, like, ratty T-shirts to high-stakes board meetings.
That's a great comparison.
They are signaling that they possess so much inherent power that they no longer need to participate in the traditional dress code of power. But Jigong takes that to a really profound spiritual extreme.
He does. And the text backs up his philosophy instantly. Because Jigong doesn't draw a weapon. He doesn't even adopt a fighting stance.
He just stands there.
Yeah. He looks up, sees this towering demon of a man ready to split his skull open, and he just points a single finger.
Just a point.
Yep. He recites a 6-syllable mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. And the result is immediate. Lai Ming is magically frozen in place, completely paralyzed, mid-strike, right there on the staircase.
Which is such a wild visual. He literally turns a prayer into a tactical weapon, like a freeze ray, basically.
A literal freeze ray.
But let's pause on that specific phrase. I've heard Om Mani Padme Hum before. It's incredibly common, right? What is the actual mechanic of using it here?
Well, it is arguably the most ubiquitous and profoundly sacred mantra in all of Mahayana Buddhism. Historically, it is the mantra associated with Avalokiteshvara.
The bodhisattva of compassion.
Right, exactly. Known in China as Wanyan. Each syllable is meant to purify a specific realm of existence, from the realm of the gods all the way down to the realm of hell.
Wow, so it covers everything.
It really does. It is an invocation of pure, boundless, universal compassion. The repetition of it is designed to cultivate enlightenment and alleviate the suffering of all sentient beings.
Okay, so it's a prayer meant to cultivate universal love and end suffering.
Yes. And what does the mad monk do with it?
He uses it to freeze a guy.
Exactly. He weaponizes it as a highly practical, literal spirit-fixing spell to stop a guy from stabbing him. The theological irony is just brilliant.
That is so good.
He is taking the highest, most abstract spiritual concept of compassion and applying it in the most blunt, forceful, physical way possible.
Yeah, he isn't meditating on a mountaintop. He's in a dirty tavern using Holy Scripture as a supernatural stun gun.
Exactly.
It totally reframes how we look at power dynamics. If you listening right now, think about how often we size someone up based purely on their outward signaling.
Oh, all the time.
Right. Their polished resume, their expensive car, their articulate vocabulary. We assume competence based entirely on the packaging.
We really do.
But in this tavern, the man with the drawn sword, the intimidating beard, and the killer instinct is entirely powerless. He is a statue.
Yep.
And the man covered in mud, wearing ripped clothes, holding absolutely nothing, is the one dictating the physics of the room.
Yeah.
True power in this universe doesn't require posturing at all.
It's a vital lesson, but the author doesn't let us sit with the majesty of that magical moment for very long.
No, he really doesn't.
As soon as the mystical tension reaches its peak, the narrative just sharply pivots. The author immediately undercuts this high-stakes standoff with pure, grounded slapstick comedy.
Oh man, the waiter.
Yes. We move straight into the collateral damage of the free spell.
And the tonal shift is just phenomenal. We go from a mystical display of Buddhist power to an incredibly mundane physical gag.
It's so jarring.
Right. So Ling is frozen on the stairs, arm raised, looking utterly terrifying. And out from the kitchen walks a waiter. Just a regular working-class guy carrying an oil tray loaded with food.
Just doing his job.
Yeah. And the text gives us his internal monologue. He's thinking to himself, oh, the guests upstairs are wealthy. They ordered a lot. I'm going to get a fantastic tip.
He's already counting the money.
Exactly. He starts walking up the stairs, completely oblivious to the magical duel that just happened. And then he looks up.
And he is confronted with the frozen visage of a blue-faced, red-bearded warrior locked in a killing strike. I mean, to a civilian, Lei Ming looks like a literal demon that has just materialized on the staircase.
So the waiter completely panics. His legs just turn to jelly. The text even gives us the onomatopoeia, like the actual sound effects of the crash.
It's so vivid.
He drops the heavy tray, tumbles backward down the wooden stairs, shatters 4 plates, and just ruins all the expensive food. It's the kind of physical comedy you would expect in a Looney Tunes cartoon.
It really is.
And Jigong, the enlightened master who just performed a miracle, watches this poor guy fall down the stairs, shrugs, says, yeah, let him go, and unfreezes Lei Ming.
What's fascinating here is that abrupt transition from the sublime to the ridiculous. It serves a very specific narrative purpose.
To make us laugh.
Well, yes, it relieves the tension for the reader, but it also fundamentally changes the dynamic between the two adversaries. Lei Ming's physical threat has been entirely neutralized by magic.
Right. He knows he can't win.
Exactly. He knows he cannot win a direct confrontation. The open spear has failed. So the moment he is unfrozen, his psychology shifts from aggression straight to deception.
He pivots instantly.
He does. He immediately kneels on the stairs, addresses Jigong as his master's master, and begs for forgiveness, claiming his attack was just a momentary lapse of ignorant confusion.
Which is the most transparent fake apology imaginable.
Oh, completely.
It's the equivalent of getting caught with your hand in the cookie jar and claiming you were just, like, dusting it.
That's exactly it.
But internally, Lei Ming's monologue is completely different. He is actively plotting his next assassination attempt while kneeling in submission.
He's already moving to plan B.
Yeah. He tells himself that this monk is too tough to fight head-on, so he needs to use a hidden arrow. He actually recites the proverb to himself. Open spears are easy to dodge. Hidden arrows are hard to defend against.
Which is such a crucial piece of dialogue.
We really need to define the world Lei Ming lives in to understand this logic, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned the martial underworld earlier. What exactly are the rules of this space?
To understand Lei Ming's behavior, we have to deeply understand the concept of the Jianghu. The literal translation is rivers and lakes, but conceptually it refers to an alternate society.
Like an underground world.
Right. one that existed parallel to the mainstream, law-abiding imperial society of ancient China. The Jianhu was the domain of martial artists, wandering swordsmen, bandits, mercenaries, and outcasts.
So it's like a shadow society operating right under the nose of the emperor.
Exactly. When you left your village, abandoned your traditional Confucian duties to your family, and took up the sword, you entered the Jianghu. And this alternate society had its own strict, albeit contradictory, code of ethics known as yi, or martial righteousness.
Ah, so they had their own laws.
Yes. And the proverb Lei Ming quotes, "Open spears are easy to dodge, hidden arrows are hard to defend against," is the defining pragmatic philosophy of this world. The open spear represents the honorable challenge.
Like a duel at high noon.
Right. Two warriors squaring off in broad daylight, acknowledging each other's skill.
Which is what he tried on the stairs, and he got magically frozen for his trouble.
Right. And because he failed within the realm of honorable combat, his code allows and even encourages him to move to the hidden arrow.
The dirty trick.
Exactly. The hidden arrow represents treachery, poison, the sneak attack in the dead of night, the dagger in the back. To someone outside the Jianghu, this looks like pure cowardice. But to Lei Ming, it is tactical necessity.
He has to win no matter what.
Yes, because his ultimate overriding moral imperative is to avenge his sworn brother. In the twisted ethical framework of the martial underworld, the nobility of his end goal justifies the extreme treachery of his method.
Wow, but the best part of this entire sequence is Jigong's reaction to the fake apology, because Jigong doesn't buy the act for a millisecond.
Not even a little bit.
After Lei Ming gives his tearful, kneeling apology, he stands up and sits down on the same long wooden bench as Jigong. And what does Jigong do? He doesn't say a word. He just quietly stands up and shuffles over to the absolute furthest end of the bench.
It is brilliant, deadpan physical acting.
It's hilarious. He is blatantly communicating, I hear your apology, but I am absolutely not sitting within arm's reach of the guy who just tried to split my head open.
He's maintaining a safe distance.
And then Jigong takes it a step further. He actually speaks Lei Ming's internal thoughts out loud.
Oh, this is great.
He looks at Lei Ming and casually remarks, hidden arrows are hard to defend against. A sneak attack isn't a joke.
He just calls him out.
He drops the exact proverb Lei Ming was just thinking. It's an incredible power move. He is stripping away Lei Ming's last remaining advantage, which is the element of surprise, by basically letting him know, I can read your mind and your deception is as pathetic as your swordsmanship.
And right in the middle of this incredibly tense psychological chess match between a telepathic monk and an assassin, the mundane world rudely interrupts again.
Yes, the waiter returns.
The waiter, who just fell down the stairs, comes limping back up. And is he awestruck by the martial masters? Is he terrified of the magic? Not at all.
He doesn't care about the magic.
He is entirely focused on his own economic reality. He looks at Lei Ming and complains, hey, what did I do to you? You scared the life out of me. I fell, and now I've broken 4 plates and ruined 4 dishes of food. Who is going to pay for that?
And Lei Ming, who is literally sitting there plotting a treacherous assassination, responds like a completely normal, polite customer.
He's so reasonable.
He says, don't worry about it, friend. Tally up the cost of the broken dishes, and I'll pay for everything on my way out. The juxtaposition is just wild to me. You have a life-or-death assassination plot sitting right next to a completely normal argument about a restaurant tab.
It grounds the high-flying wuxia fantasy in a recognizable, lived-in reality. It reminds the reader that no matter how epic the battles between good and evil get, they are happening in a world where working-class people still need to cover the cost of broken crockery.
That's a really good point.
But for Lei Ming, this entire situation is rapidly becoming unbearable. He has been physically outmatched, psychologically exposed, and now he's dealing with customer service issues.
It's too much for him.
The frustration just boils over, driving him to escalate the situation, which leads to absolute chaos breaking out across the tavern.
Okay, let's follow that escalation, because here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
This is where the scene goes from a tense standoff to a full-blown riot.
Oh, it really falls apart.
Lei Ming just can't help himself. He is sitting on the bench, humiliated. He thinks he sees a momentary opening while Jigong is distracted, so he draws his sword to stab the monk a second time.
Which is just a terrible idea.
Right. And, surprise, surprise, Jigong just points his finger and freezes Lei Ming again.
Yeah.
But this time, Jigong decides to change his tactics. Instead of just sitting there, Jigong starts screaming at the top of his lungs deep upstairs, "Murder! Help! He actively calls for the secular authorities.
He is deliberately pulling the mundane legal system into a spiritual and martial conflict.
Which is a huge shift.
It is, and it just so happens that two imperial constables, Chai Yuanlu and Du Zenying, are sitting downstairs having a drink. When they hear the cry for help, they draw their iron rulers, which were the standard heavy metal police batons of the era, and they rush toward the stairs to intervene.
But the very act of the police springing into action triggers a completely bizarre chain reaction on the ground floor.
It really is pure chaos.
It brings us to Yang Meng. The text describes him as a muddled or foolish man. Yang Meng has no weapons. He has absolutely no idea what is happening upstairs or why the police are running.
None at all.
But he sees the constables draw their weapons, and a switch flips in his brain. He decides, well, I guess we're fighting now.
He is the embodiment of mob mentality and the contagious nature of violence in confined spaces.
Exactly. I picture this like a chaotic saloon brawl in an old Western movie. You know the trope. One guy at the poker table throws a punch, and suddenly guys at the opposite end of the bar, who don't even know each other, start smashing whiskey bottles over each other's heads.
Yes, exactly that energy.
Yang Meng is that guy. He wants to join the riot, but he doesn't have a weapon. So he runs into the kitchen, grabs a random cook, slaps the man so hard he knocks his teeth out, steals the cook's heavy iron fire poker, and charges toward the stairs to join a battle he knows nothing about.
It's just wild.
It is pure, unfiltered absurdity.
It's humorous, sure, but it also serves as a sharp critique of the Jigong culture we discussed earlier.
How so?
Well, when these supposed heroes, villains, and martial artists clash, it is rarely a clean, isolated duel. The violence spills over. The collateral damage is always borne by the regular people.
Oh, the bystanders.
Exactly. The waiters who fall downstairs, the cooks who get their teeth knocked out, the bystanders who get swept up in the panic. The martial underworld romanticizes violence, but the author is showing us the ugly, chaotic reality of it.
But the absolute punchline to all this chaos happens when the constables finally reach the second floor.
Oh, this is the best part.
They rush up with their iron rulers, looking for the violent thief Jigong was screaming about. And what does Jigong do? He casually unfreezes Lei Ming, turns to the police officers and says, "Oh, the thief. He ran away out the window. False alarm."
Just completely lies to them.
Yep. And then he says, "But let me introduce you to these two gentlemen here. These are my devoted, loving disciples, Lianger and Minger." He introduces the two men who literally just tried to murder him as his own students.
It is a masterstroke of social manipulation. But to understand why he does it, we have to look at the massive jurisdictional clash happening in this scene.
See, that's where I need to challenge Jigong's decision-making.
Okay, why?
Letting two armed assassins walk free just to teach them some sort of abstract spiritual lesson seems incredibly reckless. They just proved how dangerous they are, and a cook downstairs just lost his teeth because of the panic they caused.
That's true.
So why not just let the Imperial Police arrest the guy holding the drawn sword? It seems like a massive dereliction of duty for a hero.
If he were a secular hero, a magistrate, or a vigilante, you would be absolutely right. But Jigong operates on an entirely different jurisdictional and moral axis.
Different rules.
Completely. By claiming Lai Ming and Shen Liang as his disciples, he is instantly shielding them from secular law. He is drawing a hard boundary and telling the imperial constables this is an internal monastic matter. These men fall under the jurisdiction of the temple, not the state.
So he's taking them out of the legal system?
Yes. His ultimate goal isn't to put them in a wooden stockade or have them executed by the local magistrate. His goal is their spiritual correction. He intends to break their martial pride and reform their souls on his own terms.
It's like invoking diplomatic immunity in the middle of a crime scene. He's completely rewriting the rules of engagement. Like, you can't arrest them. They have monastic immunity.
That is an excellent analogy. In the strict Confucian hierarchy of imperial China, the bond between a master and a disciple was considered sacred, akin to the bond between a father and a son.
Oh, wow. So it was a very big deal.
Huge. The secular authorities generally respected that hierarchy and were hesitant to interfere in internal clan or monastic discipline unless a major state crime had been committed. Jigong understands exactly how to manipulate these societal norms.
He plays the system perfectly.
He really does. Once he claims them as disciples, the police investigation hits an immediate dead end. The constables are forced by social custom to stand down. They even pivot to politely addressing the would-be assassins as Lord Liang and Lord Ming.
It's such a surreal image. The cops are bowing respectfully to the guys still clutching their murder weapons.
It's a total reversal.
I mean, think about a time in your own life, for you listening, where you found yourself caught in a rapidly escalating volatile situation. Maybe a heated argument at a family dinner or a sudden conflict in a workplace meeting.
We've all been there.
Right. Sometimes, the fastest and most effective way to defuse the bomb isn't to argue louder or fight back, it's to fundamentally change the social context of the room. To tell a convenient white lie, or reframe the relationship in a way that forces everyone to reset their behavior. That is exactly what Jigong executes here. He reframes a bloody assassination attempt as a minor family dispute.
And his manipulation works flawlessly. The constables apologize for the intrusion and head back downstairs. Even the collateral damage is smoothed over. The assaulted cook with the missing teeth gets paid off and appeased with silver.
Everyone gets bought off.
Right. The immediate threat of the imperial law is completely neutralized. But for Lai Ming, this rescue is actually the ultimate humiliation.
Oh, absolutely. Being saved from the police by the very man you were trying to kill is devastating to his ego.
His physical attacks failed. His deceptive apology failed, and now his martial pride has been publicly dismantled. He realizes that traditional weapons are just useless against this monk.
So he needs a new plan.
Yes, he must resort to the ultimate, most treacherous hidden arrow. He needs poison. And to explain how he acquires this poison, the narrative takes us on a sudden, deeply jarring detour into a surprisingly dark backstory.
This tonal shift gave me absolute whiplash.
It's intense.
Because Lai Ming walks downstairs, pays his tab, making sure to cover the cost of the broken plates like a good citizen, right?
Yes.
And orders a bottle of wine and 2 smoked chickens to go.
Very casual takeout order.
Right. And as he is packing up his takeout order, he subtly slips a packet of Meng Hanyao into the wine. The text describes this as a sweat-inducing knockout powder. And then, without warning, the author drops us into a flashback to explain exactly where Lai Ming got this poison.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this flashback strips away any remaining comedic elements, plunging us straight into the casual brutality of the historical underworld.
So Lai Ming ran into an old acquaintance, a former subordinate of his, named Single Blade Lu Feng. Now, Lai Ming expects his old lackey to be struggling, but Lu Feng is doing fantastically well.
He's thriving.
He really is. He's wearing luxurious clothes, riding a beautiful horse, and flashing a lot of silver. Lai Ming asks him how he got so rich, and Lu Feng just openly, proudly brags that he has opened a black inn.
Which is a very specific term.
Right, I know this is a famous trope, but what exactly does a black inn entail in this historical context?
Well, the Black Inn is one of the most foundational and terrifying tropes in Wuxia literature, heavily featured in classics like The Water Margin.
Okay, yeah.
But it stems from a very real historical anxiety. In ancient China, travel between cities was incredibly arduous, slow, and dangerous. You were entirely isolated. A Black Inn was a tavern or guest house set up in a remote location specifically to prey on these isolated travelers.
Oh, that is terrifying.
It was. The proprietors would identify wealthy merchants or lone wanderers, drug their food or wine, murder them in their sleep, and steal their silver and belongings.
And sometimes it goes even darker than just robbery, right?
Yes, unfortunately.
Uh,
In the most macabre versions of the trope, like the famous story of Sun Ernyang, the proprietors would butcher the victims and use their meat as the filling for the meat buns they served to the next day's customers.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it represents the absolute ultimate perversion of the sacred laws of hospitality.
And Lu Feng is just casually catching up with his old boss, bragging about this horrifying business model. He tells Lai Ming, yeah, the robbery business is booming. In fact, I just got back from Siyun Temple. I bought 10 tails of knockout powder from the monks there, enough to poison 100 people.
Which is a massive amount.
It is.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Meng Hanyao itself. What is the historical or pharmacological basis for this knockout powder that shows up in every Wuxia story?
While it is often romanticized as a magical potion in the literature, there is a very real pharmacological history behind it. Historically, Meng Hanyao was likely derived from plants like Datura stramonium, also known as Jimson weed, or certain species of aconite.
Wow, okay.
Datura contains powerful tropane alkaloids like scopolamine, which can cause severe hallucinations, profound delirium, and deep, arousable unconsciousness.
So it's heavy stuff.
Very. It was historically used in ancient Chinese medicine as an anesthetic for surgery, famously by the legendary physician Hua Tuo. But in the hands of the Jianghu underworld, it was weaponized for kidnapping and murder.
So Lu Feng has a massive bag of military-grade, weaponized scopolamine. But the detail that really highlights the corruption of this world is where he bought it.
Yes, the source.
He bought a mass murder weapon from Seun Temple, a Buddhist temple. A place of worship has essentially become a black market arms dealer for serial killers. It paints a terrifyingly grim picture of what the world looks like outside of Jigong's immediate protective presence.
It does. It shows a society where spiritual institutions have been deeply, fundamentally corrupted by secular greed. But the most revealing part of this entire flashback is Lei Ming's reaction to Lu Feng's story.
See, this is the part that genuinely shocked me, because Lei Ming asks to see the poison. Lu Feng, trusting his old boss, hands over the packet of powder. And then Lei Ming points and says, "Hey, look behind you."
The oldest trick in the book.
Literally the oldest trick. And when Lu Feng turns his head, Lei Ming draws his blade, stabs his former subordinate to death, shoves his bleeding corpse into a nearby cave, and casually pockets the poison. Just like that. The conversation is over.
This moment requires us to deeply analyze the cognitive dissonance inherent in Lei Ming's morality.
It's so jarring.
It really is. Throughout the story, Lei Ming presents himself as a deeply honorable man. He justifies his attempt to assassinate Jigong because he is fulfilling a sacred vow to avenge his sworn brother, Hua Yunlong. In his own mind, he is the righteous hero of his own narrative, bound by the noble code of brotherhood.
Right. But then he turns around and murders a guy who used to work for him, entirely unprovoked, just because he wants the guy's bag of poison. How can he possibly reconcile that hypocrisy? Like, how is he an honorable sworn brother and a backstabbing murderer at the same time?
It is a textbook example of extreme moral compartmentalization driven by psychological tribalism.
Tribalism.
Yes. In Lei Ming's worldview, morality only applies to the in-group, his sworn brothers, his immediate clan. Everyone in the out-group is functionally a non-entity. Their lives have absolutely no inherent value.
So Lu Feng didn't count as a real person to him.
Exactly. Lu Feng was a former subordinate, meaning he was lower in the hierarchy, and therefore his life was expendable if it served the needs of the in-group.
That is so cold.
Furthermore, Lei Ming likely uses a form of moral licensing. Because Lu Feng was running a black inn and murdering innocents, Lei Ming can easily rationalize the murder as killing a bad guy, ignoring the fact that his only actual motive was stealing the poison to commit his own murder.
It's staggering. I mean, we literally just transitioned from a scene where a clumsy waiter dropped some plates straight into a gritty true crime bisection of a sociopath justifying the murder of his friend.
It's a wild ride.
It is jarring, but I see why the author did it. It strips away any romantic illusion the reader might still have about the martial underworld. These aren't just misunderstood rogues with a code of honor. This is a brutal, remorseless killer who now possesses enough pharmacological firepower to drop an elephant. The danger to Jigong is incredibly real.
Exactly. The narrative establishes the lethal stakes just before the final confrontation. With the poisoned wine prepared, the three characters, Jigong, Lei Ming, and the disciple Chen Liang, leave the noisy, chaotic environment of the tavern.
They head out into the dark.
Yes. They walk out into the night, heading toward a much more ominous and isolated setting for their final showdown.
And the change in atmosphere is so cinematic. They leave the village behind and walk a mile or two into a quiet, shadowy pine forest. And the specific location they stop at is dripping with symbolism.
Oh, it's so dramatic.
They sit down at a pristine white stone table located smack in the middle of a graveyard. It is dead quiet, illuminated only by moonlight. The contrast from the loud, crowded, smelly restaurant could not be more intense.
The visual cues are huge here.
Yes, the visual cues here are screaming at the reader. You do not bring a bottle of wine and 2 chickens to a white stone table in a graveyard for a casual picnic.
Definitely not.
The author is signaling that someone is not walking out of this forest alive. So what does this all mean?
Well, the graveyard is the ultimate liminal space. It is the literal threshold between the world of the living and the world of the dead. It is the perfect, necessary stage for the profound philosophical debate that is about to occur.
Right.
Stripped of the crowds, the constables, and the distractions of the tavern, Lei Ming finally asks a foundational question that has been bothering him the entire narrative. He directly challenges Jigong's jurisdiction and his motives.
He looks across the stone table and says, "You're a monk. You belong to a monastery. You are supposed to be detached from all worldly affairs. So why do you even care what my brother Fa Yunlong did?"
It's a fair question.
Right. He says, yes, he robbed the Qin Prime Minister's mansion. He stole secular wealth. But he didn't steal from your temple. Why is a holy man acting like a bounty hunter for a corrupt, secular politician?
This raises an important question, and it is a highly intelligent critique. Leming is pointing out the apparent hypocrisy of a monk enforcing imperial law, but Jigong's answer fundamentally redefines his entire character and mission.
Jigong tells him, I don't care about the secular theft at all. The prime minister's money means absolutely nothing to me. If Hua Yulong had only robbed the mansion, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
I'm only hunting your brother because he broke into a Buddhist nunnery and desecrated it.
This exchange is the philosophical crux of the novel. It establishes the absolute boundaries of divine intervention. Jigong explicitly separates secular law from sacred law.
He draws a clear line.
Yes, he is stating that the mundane crimes of the world, robbing the rich, political corruption, the everyday violence we saw in the tavern, those belong to the world of men. Human society is inherently flawed, and he allows worldly crimes to occur because they are part of the karmic cycle.
So he is an agent of divine justice, not a beat cop. He isn't there to stop every pickpocket.
Precisely. But he draws a hard, immovable line at spiritual corruption. Desecrating a nunnery isn't just a crime against property. It is an assault on the divine order itself.
Oh,
It threatens the spiritual sanctuary of those seeking enlightenment. That is the threshold that forces heaven to intervene. He doesn't care about the prime minister's gold, but he will relentlessly hunt down anyone who violates the sanctity of the spiritual realm.
it completely clarifies his motivations.
Right.
But once that philosophical debate concludes, the words run out. There is nothing left but the poison.
The tension comes right back.
Leming unpacks the smoked chickens and formally offers the cup of poisoned wine to Jigong. And what follows is the most intense, layered, psychological game of chicken I have ever encountered in literature.
It really is. Jigong looks at the cup. He possesses supernatural awareness, right? He knows exactly what is in the wine. He knows there's enough datura in there to kill 100 men.
He knows it's lethal.
But instead of throwing it in Leming's face, he uses the strict etiquette of Chinese hospitality against his assassin.
He smiles and says, I can't drink this yet. Custom dictates that the host hasn't drunk, so the guest shouldn't drink first. He turns to the third man at the table, Chen Liang, and says, Chen Liang, you are my beloved disciple. You take the first drink.
It is a devastatingly perfect trap. Jigong forces Leming into an impossible dilemma.
Right, because we have to remember who Chen Liang is in this dynamic. Chen Liang is Leming's sworn brother. They are bound by the outlaw code of the Jianghu. But Chen Ling is also Jigong's disciple.
He's the man in the middle.
He is the innocent party caught in the crossfire. Chen Liang, completely unaware that the wine is laced with military-grade poison, reaches out to take the cup. And Lang Ning absolutely panics.
He loses his mind.
He breaks every rule of etiquette, lunges across the stone table, snatches the poisoned wine right out of Chen Liang's hands, and stammers, no, this cup is specially poured for the master. You can't have it.
Jigong is simultaneously testing the morality of both men. By offering the poison to Chen Liang, he forces Leming to reveal that he still retains some fragmented shred of humanity.
Right, because he didn't want his brother to die.
Exactly. Leming is a ruthless, remorseless killer who will stab a subordinate in the back without blinking, but he will not allow his sworn brother to accidentally drink poison. The outlaw code, however twisted, still holds power over him.
But the psychological pressure he applies to Chen Liang is even heavier. Jigong watches Leming snatch the cup back, smiles, and then turns his full attention to Chen Liang.
This part is so intense.
He says, you and I are like father and son. Tell me, if someone were to murder me right now, right here at this table,
Yeah.
what would you do?
He is forcing Chen Liang to verbally and morally commit to a path. He is demanding that Chen Liang choose between his underworld brotherhood with Leming and his spiritual devotion to his master.
And Chen Liang, still totally oblivious to the poisoned cup sitting inches away, fiercely swears his loyalty. He says he would absolutely avenge his master's death. But Jigong doesn't accept it the first time.
No, he makes him say it again.
He makes Chen Liang repeat the vow. He pushes him until Chen Liang is visibly annoyed, practically shouting, I swear it. If someone kills you, I will avenge you to the ends of the earth.
Only when that moral trap is completely set, and Chen Liang is inextricably bound by his own oath, does Jigong make his final move.
And it is the craziest move of the entire narrative. Jigong looks at the two men, says, good. He reaches across the table, takes the bottle of poisoned wine, and he just chugs it.
All of it.
He doesn't take a sip. He drinks down a dozen massive mouthfuls of lethal poison. He sits there for a second, begins to sway, and then collapses completely unconscious onto the white stone table.
Yeah.
And the chapter abruptly ends with Lai Ming standing over his master's limp body,
Hmm.
laughing into the night sky in absolute triumph.
It is one of the most phenomenal cliffhangers in classical literature.
I honestly couldn't believe it ended there.